This girl was found in her own bedroom. Only 31 years later, the horrifying truth shocked the world. Fawn Cox, a 16-year-old girl, had eagerly been waiting for the summer of 1989 to arrive. At that time, she worked at the World of Fun, the largest amusement park in Kansas City, Missouri. Fawn was thrilled to be a part of the team that made the visitors' experience unforgettable. Despite the long hours and the blistering heat, she enjoyed her job because she knew it would help her save up for college. On July 26, 1989, she worked until 11 p.m. After a busy day at work, Fawn returned home exhausted. She barely had enough energy to take a shower before going to bed, so she started thinking about the day ahead, but she had no idea that her life was about to change forever. In the middle of the night, Fawn's little sister Felissa was abruptly awakened by the family's dog barking. She hardly opened her eyes but didn't see anything out of the ordinary and eventually drifted back to sleep. The next morning, the clock struck around 9:30 a.m. and Fawn's alarm went off. However, instead of hearing Fawn get up to turn it off, Beverly and Felissa heard the alarm and continued to blare through the house. This struck them as odd, as Fawn was always an early riser and never slept in. Puzzled by the persistent noise, Beverly and Felissa went to Fawn's bedroom to investigate. As they approached the door, they pushed it open to find Fawn. She was lying unconscious on her bed, still in her pajamas and with the alarm clock blaring beside her. Beverly and Felissa panicked, assessed the situation, and realized that Fawn wasn't responding to their calls or attempts to wake her up. Upon trying to wake her up, it becomes clear that she's unresponsive. After persisting in their actions, they learned that Fawn, the teenager in question, has died. The realization of her sudden demise was a shocking and traumatic experience for Beverly and Felissa. Upon conducting an autopsy of the sweet schoolgirl, it was discovered that she had not died from natural causes. The autopsy results were alarming and horrific as they revealed that Fawn had been raped and strangled. This information paints a grim picture of the events surrounding her death and suggests that foul play was involved. Such a tragedy is truly heartbreaking and a cause for deep concern and investigation. Fawn's father, John, spoke to the media about his family's belief that they would be reunited with Fawn in the afterlife. The family consists of John, his wife, and their daughters, Fawn, Felissa, and Amber. John mentioned that their shared beliefs were helping them stay strong during this difficult time. However, the police reported that an unknown person had entered the family home at some point during the night through an open upstairs window. The intruder may have used a small truck to climb up and gain entry before attacking Fawn. The details of the attack are not yet known, and the police are investigating the incident. Despite the family's strong belief in the afterlife, this violent event has undoubtedly shaken them. The thought of losing a loved one in such a brutal manner is unimaginable. The police are working tirelessly to find the person responsible and bring them to justice. According to Sergeant Ben Caldwell, the investigators believe that Fawn, along with the house, was targeted by the killer. This belief was because the suspect had chosen that particular house and that particular window to enter and exit without being detected. The investigators found this to be a logical explanation, as the suspect was likely to be someone who knew Fawn personally, and hence had knowledge of her whereabouts and the house's layout. The investigators were convinced that the suspect had deliberately chosen this house and window to avoid being caught and identified. The Cox family has not heard any noise except for the barking of a dog. This could be attributed to the fact that the air conditioner running throughout the night was quite loud. Therefore, it may have drowned out any other noise that could have been present in the environment. It is possible that the family members were in deep sleep or engaged in activities that required high concentration and thus did not notice any other sounds. Nonetheless, the barking dog was loud enough to penetrate through the noise of the air conditioner and get their attention. Initially, it seemed like the police could solve the crime quite quickly. However, 2 months after the murder, the police arrested 3 teenagers. One of them was accused of committing the first-degree murder, rape, and sodomy. This person was put in jail for 8 months. However, the DNA testing results from the crime scene proved that he was innocent. After a thorough investigation, it was determined that the 2 other teenagers initially suspected in the case were not involved. As a result, charges against them were dropped. Despite this, the police continued to investigate, but eventually the leads ran out, and the case became cold. For Fawn's family, the pain and devastation of their daughter's death continued to haunt them, as they remained determined to find the killer. They organized fundraisers to raise money and use it to put up billboards all over town with Fawn's picture on it, hoping to generate leads and information about the case. Despite their efforts, however, the case remained unsolved. They talked to the media and asked the police to investigate every time they received information about progress in DNA testing. The police checked the DNA found at the crime scene against a database of DNA from every criminal in the country, but they didn't find a match. As the time passed, years turned into decades, and people started to suspect that the killer had passed away because it seemed like they hadn't committed any other crimes. Sergeant Caldwell mentioned to the Star newspaper in 2017 that it's unlikely for someone to commit a murder and then suddenly stop committing crimes without any explanation. In 2019, the family of Fawn Cox wanted to do more than find out what happened to her. They wanted to do more DNA tests to get information, but the people in charge said it would cost too much money. So the family decided to hold another fundraiser. They worked hard to collect enough money to offer a reward of $10,000 to anyone who had information that could help solve the case. They put up billboards all across town to inform people about the reward and ask for the help. The family was determined to find out what happened to Fawn and were willing to do whatever they could do to get answers. Even though they faced obstacles, they did not give up and continued to work hard to find the truth. In the same year, Fawn's sister Amber, now 45, was interviewed with a TV channel called Fox 4. She said she was deeply affected by her sister's murder and had been obsessed with finding out who did it for over 30 years. She felt so overwhelmed by it that she ended up in the hospital. Amber looked up to her sister and wanted to be like her. Fawn protected her, and losing her was a huge blow. In June of last year, which was 31 years after the murder occurred, the FBI finally decided to provide financial support for advanced DNA testing in the case. As a result, the case was finally solved. The testing revealed a match, and the police had long suspected that the person responsible for the crime was someone Fawn knew. It turned out that the suspect was indeed known to Fawn and was also her relative. The suspect was Fawn's cousin, Donald Cox Jr., who was 21 years old at the time of the murder. Sadly, Cox passed away in 2006 due to a drug overdose. However, his DNA had been collected during the investigation as authorities looked into the nature of his death. The Cox family experienced a lot of sadness when they discovered that one of their members had killed Fawn. Felissa, a member of the Cox family, said that although it was very upsetting to hear these news, it also brought some relief to the family. She explained that even though they were not expecting this answer, they were glad to finally have closure. Amber, among other members of the Cox family, expressed her satisfaction that they now knew the truth about what happened to her sister Fawn. She said that she couldn't help but feel happy and that it was something she had prayed for in her family. Overall, even though the Cox family had to deal with the pain of knowing that one of their own had taken Fawn's life, they were also relieved to finally have an answer to what happened to their beloved family member.